Hello and welcome to the special bonus episode of Climactic. I'm your host, Mark Spencer. This week, our main episode was a special devoted to the people of Extinction Rebellion, the protest group formed in England, which is now worldwide, who are showing that the non-violent direct action techniques of Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Standing Rock and the Keystone Pipeline, these tactics are alive and well in the time of climate change protest, and are getting results. What we aim to show in this week's episode is that there are people behind the headlines, and that for every act of non-violent direct action, there's real people involved, and that there are real stakes. I know for at least myself, and maybe for a lot of you as well, there's been a lot of curiosity about whether Extinction Rebellion's methods will yield results, and if they're resulting in more people waking up to the risk of climate change, or if it's hardening the hearts of bystanders. So the reason this bonus episode is going out is because you've heard a little bit of Violet's story already in that main episode, but I thought we had a very good chat about what Extinction Rebellion's theory of change is, just how it's going to achieve the results it wants to see, why non-violent direct action is the way to go, more on what it actually feels like to be one of the members of this group, and finally, how the media can play a role, especially grassroots citizen media like Climactic. So I really enjoyed having this chat with Violet. She was so generous with her time, and I'm really excited to be bringing you this fuller-length interview now. Enjoy! Violet, where are we right now, and what's this scene we're looking at over there, just across the grass?
Right here we are at Treasury Gardens at the Camp Out for Climate, and at our toes is a graveyard for all the extinct animals, and then beyond that is a beautiful campsite with all our Extinction is Forever Act Now signs and bunting and some people just waking up and surviving the morning after camping out overnight in the city.
A group of really passionate people down here. Is it a very loose or very tight group? Is there like a central sort of set of ideals everyone pretty strictly or wants to adhere to as being part of XR? Or like, because if you look around the world right now, XR are doing a lot of actions. And even within Australia, there was one XR group that just got Inner West Council of Sydney to declare a climate emergency yesterday. Yeah. So they're like sort of playing within the council system, they're getting on the agenda. Other groups are doing direct action, some are doing both. Do you feel like you have to be a certain type of person to be in XR, or is it kind of a wide group?
XR is really for everyone. It really is. And we have 10 principles. Those principles have things like we value reflecting and learning. We are decentralized and autonomous. So there are like values that we go by as a movement, but there's everyone in XR. I was writing a song recently, I'm a musician, and it was like, XR is for everyone. Bring your yoga teacher, bring your mum, bring your dad. So it really is. And that's the whole point. It's supposed to be just this fun place for people to land when they realize what's going on, and fun is the key because, you know, when you realize what's going on, people land here with climate grief, and we see a lot of people when they come into XR quite distraught about the situation, and we provide a safe and welcoming place for them to land and heal. Yeah.
That's a really good point. It does feel like, because I'm quite new to the climate community, I was kind of off the spectrum until recently, whereas like, yeah, I was a capitalist, I was a salesman, studied business.
Me too. I was a really good capitalist. Don't you worry. I love to shop, you know, but that's why we have one of our principles is no blaming and shaming, because we're all born into this toxic system, and you have to learn. A little plane overhead.
No such thing as a quiet spot in the city. It's an aerial parking lot.
Yeah.
It happens. That's really good. Do you find a lot of people who join XR are people who have already been involved with other groups or involved in the climate crisis in some way, or is this, for some people, is XR their first kind of way of taking action about the climate crisis? From what you've seen,
From what I've seen, it's an even split. A lot of other groups from XR, I've branched into other activist groups like Stop Adani and the Grey Power, who are just doing amazing stuff. But a lot of them are activists who've been doing it for a long time. They're sort of a little, they swap out and help each other under the different banners. Whereas with XR, and particularly Camp Out for Climate, we've seen a lot of people who come along and they're like, oh, I've never been an activist before. And they feel like they're sitting in a circle full of people who've been doing this their whole life. but I haven't been an activist before. This is my first time as well, and I just consider myself a concerned citizen here. So yeah, it's really, really for new people as well.
Is there an element of risk to this for someone who is new to it? I mean, like, you are camping out, you are engaged in nonviolent direct action. Like, does this feel like a big first step for someone to take? And do you feel like that's going to be sustainable for them, like, over the coming years as we need to continue this pressure?
Yeah, that's a really good point. One of our 10 principles is we have a regenerative culture, and we're really about informed consent. We don't let anybody take risks that they're not fully consenting to. We have a legal team who advises on anything. Yeah, I mean, there are risks, but the thing is, like the suffragettes movements, like the civil rights movements, to be able to get the attention that we need, we have to enact on civil disobedience. It's gotten past the point of lobbying. And so that's really the strategy. There are plenty of roles that are not arrestable. There are plenty of roles that are simple, like the beautiful graveyard here. This is an art installation. A lot of XR is art. And so if you just want to paint signs for the revolution, somebody will stand here and hold them for you and get arrested, and you can say, that's my sign being confiscated. But yeah, it really is about civil disobedience at the end of the day. Yeah, and that is a risk, but it's a risk we're willing to take.
There are other roles to fill, of course. There are a lot of other groups in the climate community fulfilling various roles, and of course XR is famous for its direct actions, for its protests, and for its members getting arrested. But do you think that has directly led to some of the successes we've seen, especially recently with the declaration of climate emergency across the UK?
Yeah, UK, Ireland, Scotland, Wales.
Wow.
Yeah, we can play hopscotch.
Get a rugby team together.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The Climate Emergency Rugby World Cup.
Yeah. Touchdown!
And I thought I was bad at sports metaphors.
Yeah, so bad. Well, we went from hopscotch. I think that's actually a skipping reference. Do you ever in the playground, you go, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales,
am I thinking
inside, outside, inside, on.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, absolutely. The thing is that, XR is based on an academic observation of mass movements in the past. It started by Roger Hallam, facilitated by Roger Hallam. It's actually started by uni students, and the uni students figured out what was going on through their courses and learned how bad the society was, and they started graffitiing up their uni and flares, and Hallam kind of took them under their wing and said, all right, if we're going to do this, let's do it smart. And so that's why it's non-violent, because as much, like, I'm a moral philosopher, and as much as I morally understand violence is bad,
feel the urge sometimes if you get into the climate crisis, and like existentialism can result in wanting to do something physically about it.
Yeah.
So terrified, but say it's not smart.
No,
and it's not
smart.
right morally.
Yeah, so 75% of violent civil movements fail. Of the 25% that do succeed, 95% of them end up in a totalitarian, patriarchal regime, because when you enact on violence, you lose the vulnerable parties like the women, the children, the elderly. And that's why XR is for everyone, because we are extremely non-violent, and non-violent to the point of open-heartedness. We have a really good relationship with Melbourne City Council. We have a really good relationship with the police. And when it does come to the point where they are arresting us, I've had this conversation with police here in the city. I was like, when it does come to the point where you arrest us, I want you to sit down and be like, all right, Violet, it's your turn. And they're like, you're going to get up? And I'll be like, no, you got to carry me. And I'll go limp, and they'll lift me up, and it'll be fun, and it'll be non-traumatic. That's really important for them as well. Like, I don't want the police to have to enact on violence on me either.
Yeah. They didn't become a police officer to carry away a young protester.
No.
And doing everything you can to care for them as people as well, that's really profound.
Yeah.
And it's also smart because you're not hardening them against you. You're showing humanity and getting treated as a human in return.
That's right. Right. Yeah, it's so important that we understand that there is a person under that uniform, and most of them understand the climate crisis. I have talks with Melbourne City Council and the police, and last Melbourne City Council, the on-street compliance manager brought in the parks team leader, and the parks team leader was like, we understand that there's a problem. We're having trouble watering all the trees around the council. Like, we don't have enough water to keep the trees in the city alive. So we're on your side, but we have laws that we have to abide by, and we have processes we have to abide by. And I'm like...
So they're asking, please help us change those laws?
Yeah, they are. And they're saying, but... And so the system is set up that if we are civilly disobedient, they follow through their processes, we follow through our process, we get the attention that we need, they get the change that they need as well. And it's almost just like a choreographed dance, one that's been a time-honoured tradition between protesters and the government. Yeah.
Cops and robbers.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But pantomime.
Yeah.
Because, no one's really being antagonistic. It is, it really is, it's a bit of a theater show to get the attention of mainstream society.
That's it.
On that regard, what has been your kind of favorite action taken by XR, either here in Australia or overseas?
You've got
the imagination.
The 95-year-old sitting on the train in the UK was pretty sweet when he pulled out his sandwich. Yeah, it was adorable. Also here, we died in the water of the NGV, and that was really fun. That holds a special place in my heart because I was there and because I didn't get any eye infections or anything from being in the water, which I was worried about. But
I mean, there's a lot of pigeons that take baths in that water.
Yeah, it was pretty gross, and we had to die like 4 times. So the water was clean, but the scum on the bottom. So by the time we died 4 times, all the scum on the bottom had come up. Yeah.
For those of you unfamiliar with the term die-in, this is a type of demonstration used frequently by Extinction Rebellion. It's where the simulated mass death of a group of protesters is used in a public place to draw attention to the climate crisis. Recently, Extinction Rebellion Melbourne have taken to doing mass die-ins on public streets, in shopping centers, and the particular action that Violet's referring to is a mass die-in into the water feature out the front of the National Gallery of Victoria in Melbourne.
You know, it's about sacrifice, and that is the sad part about the contract between the activists and the government, is that to get people to pay attention, we have to show that we're willing to sacrifice ourselves for what's important. And that it does include jail time. And that is something that, you know, is hard for me. Like, I'm having conversations with my family about the fact that I might go to jail for 10 years to fight for everyone's ability to breathe. And that is the hard part about the contract. As much as we laugh and joke and want to have fun, there is real sacrifice going on here. And yeah, I guess that really needs to be acknowledged.
That's definitely a topic deserving of a fuller conversation, sitting down with a couple people, having that serious talk of what is that like to face that possibility knowingly? Yeah. Can you be prepared for it? Is there still an element where you don't believe it's going to happen, even if you think you're in the place where you could accept it? Like, would you take 10 years in prison for doing absolutely nothing violent, absolutely nothing that is damaging to society? In fact, it's
an act of self-defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really profound, and I really want to engage with that. But I think I'll put in a pin in it for now. But if I definitely want to circle back around to that in the future. The table is set and the welcome mat is out for that conversation. So your favorite action is probably the older gentleman in the UK sitting on the train, having his sandwich, and refusing to move, and just it was a great image. And I saw it, and definitely people in the climate community saw it. But I'm curious, what do you think has been one of the most effective actions taken by XR that's actually moved the needle the most? Or can you identify, is it worth identifying single things, or is it about a critical mass of actions?
Yeah, I think, there are 1 billion drops in the ocean, and it's not just XR's actions. I think every activist around the globe is just working their butt off. And not just activist people. Like I said, I don't consider myself an activist, really. I mean, I'm full-time here, but I'm just a citizen or a uni student trying to get this done. There are so many people working so hard. For anyone who didn't see it, I guess the biggest impact for me was the UK pink boat. When the police are trying to dismantle the boat, they're carrying people away from the boat. The police are crying, carrying away the protesters. Children on microphones saying, "Thank you, officers, for protecting us from any violence." That was really powerful. while the police are deconstructing the boat, they're rebuilding the boat on the other side of the square, singing, "We are the boat," you know. I think that was a really, really powerful protest. What they're doing in the UK has been absolutely phenomenal, and I really hope that Australia follows suit and rises up. We only need 3.5% of the population on the street for that social tipping point, and I believe that we have enough concerned citizens in Australia, and especially in Melbourne. I think probably 70% of Melbourne are just an inner activist waiting to be activated. So, get yourselves down to an XR event and be involved, because as soon as we have that critical mass, we can really make some change.
I had that thought just the other day. I was walking in the city, coming from recording an event, and I stopped to eat my lunch I brought from home, as you know, the freelance podcaster I am, not eating out.
Nice.
And I sat down in front of this nondescript office building, started eating my lunch, and then I looked up and I realized it was in front of the Origin building. Origin Energy, who have recently rolled out a good energy slogan, which I laugh and laugh and laugh at, because I've personally picked Origin as my rival.
Yeah.
I got really mad at some Instagram ads they were running talking about how great they were, and I just started tweeting at them like all the facts about you own the largest coal mine in the country, you got a page on your website acknowledging climate change, talking about how brown coal is the worst thing we could burn, and without a single mention of how you are going to transition away from owning the country's largest brown coal power plant. And I know I've gotten under their skin a little bit. I've had messages back and forth with them. And so I really wanted to walk up to their staff members, which were spilling out of the building for their lunch break. And then as I eat my lunch and I walk around the corner, there's about 20 of them all there having a cigarette break. And I wanted to walk up and be like, so let's talk about climate change. And I'm pretty sure, it would have been about 70% would have been like, I'm ready to have a conversation, or I have thoughts.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to not have this, not engage about the topic at all.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we are close to that critical mass.
Yeah.
Sorry for the complete tangent there.
No. I really want to acknowledge on that point, because this is Origin's a one special to my heart. The Seed Indigenous Youth Group are protesting Friday mornings. They call it Frack Off Fridays. Every Friday 7:30 it's a.m. So before work. So if you're a city worker and you want to go and support the Indigenous youth, please get down to the Origin building. Just look on Facebook, Seed, and the information for the events are there. And it's so important to support them.
How do you kind of stay on top of what's happening across the community? I'll pivot to my favorite kind of like the media question of like, what groups are doing a good job of getting the message about themselves out there? Who's doing a good job of promoting what they're doing, and also the effects of what they're doing, and sort of welcoming in people from the wider community through the stories they're telling about themselves? Like, how do you know about the Seed actions, and how are you staying abreast of what's going on with XR around the world?
Good question. It is a bit chaotic. It's sort of, once you come into the family, you just start getting introduced to all your aunts and uncles and cousins, and you make friends, and then they invite you to things. So it's really just about stepping in. I went to one XR event, and then all of a sudden I was arts coordinator and roped in so far. It's not hard to find the information once you just start to look. In terms of which ones are doing the best job, I want to acknowledge every single person who does anything. We have this really individualistic approach in society, but we really need to group up. So I would just say, if you are interested in being a part of the fight to save our planet and to save all these beautiful animals and to save ourselves, really, don't swamp yourself with feeling the pressure of individualistic action. You really need to join a team of people, because it's the Gestalt principle. Everything, it's more than the sum of its parts. So the individual can only do so much, but as a group, we achieve much, much more, exponentially more. So that's really all I'll say on that. I don't want to really highlight anyone in particular, because, they all deserve a big pat on the back. And like I said, everyone's a drop in the ocean towards the greater cause.
The beautiful thing about what XR is doing is that the groups are autonomous, that one group can experiment in doing something and find it works for them, whereas another group, that might not be the thing for them, but they can find another effective way of doing their actions that suits them. So rather than saying this group is doing this well, everyone should do it this way, that's a bit of a top-down kind of thing. But I think it's good to learn from what other people are doing and the way we can do that is actually if we talk about what we're doing and the wins and fails and the lessons learned. So I'm not sure if you think there's value in, say, XR Melbourne. I'm not sure if even the group is organized that way around the city. But if the XR presence in Melbourne was to, say, come on to community radio like 3CR fairly regularly, or a podcast like this, Climactic, do you think that has use in like a group actually using the media to tell their story, especially media that's actually going to give you airtime and not change the message, not twist the
story?
Yeah,
totally. I mean, I've already done one 3CR interview, and that was really great. I think it's really important that we get in touch with our media, and we are trying. The Guardian's giving us a lot of coverage, which is really good, and we've just started to hit ABC. We had some coverage from the Liberal protest we did on Mother's Day. Who has a freaking conference on Mother's Day? Stop it.
People who care more about politics than their mothers.
Yeah. They're lucky my mother's interstate. Or unlucky, rather. I guess I'm not sure really what I can say more than, yes, we do need a lot of media coverage, and we do have a decentralization and autonomy here. So it is, that chaos is by design, in terms of like, we are split up into different groups. We're non-hierarchical, so no one's in charge, and we do coordinate it. We have coordination teams who try and keep information and share resources between all the different decentralized groups. But mostly we just hope that people form an affinity group and start getting the word out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, sorry for it's like inside baseball, and again, to use a sporting metaphor, but like it's very much in my wheelhouse, my interest in media, especially in podcasts. Do you think it would make it all sense? Do you think it would make any sense at all for a group like XR globally to have a show where they actually allow groups to talk about what they're doing, about what they've learned, about successes and fails and everything, but rather than it being like this is the XR message and we speak, we the people behind the microphone speak as for all of XR. It's like, no, we're just kind of like, we're the XR community radio, and all the individual groups decide what goes on in these slots in this time.
Are you offering?
I 100% am. I literally am, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
So I was going to ask, like, if, whenever XR Melbourne or XR any group around the country, let alone, like, as Climactic, we want to focus a lot on the South Pacific, on Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. But at least within that sphere, if any of the groups want to use us to tell a story, to talk about something they've learned, just anything that's happened that they think would be useful. The way I picture it, especially if you've got like a member of XR who goes home at night after being involved in an action, and their parents or their friends are like, hey, you were out all day doing this and you seem really excited about what you're doing. Can you tell me what you're doing? And they're like, it's really hard for me to use like I don't know how to filter my experience I've had through to language that I think will get through to you and be most effective. But my friend or the guy who spoke at this talk, this young woman, this young man, were amazing and so inspiring. And I wish you could have just been there to hear it. Yeah. And this way we can be like, oh, well, here's an episode about that action, and you can share it with your friend, with your family member, and it can inspire them as well. You can kind of them to, until they take that first step of taking the plunge and coming along to an action, you can give them the taste of it first. It's kind of a drug peddling metaphor. It's very much like first taste is free.
An
but
appetizer.
That's right.
Yeah.
So would you like to be the XR correspondent for Melbourne and come on?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Sign me up. And I think that's a beautiful place to have. It's also healing, to be able to tell your story and be validated in that way. So, I think sometimes we feel like we're screaming out into the darkness, especially when we first started. Obviously now we're picking up a lot of speed. This is my 5th interview in 24 hours. So we are getting heard. I think having a place for people to go and call up and tell their story is really, really powerful, and that's such a beautiful offer. Thank you so much.
This is your 5th interview in 24 hours. Like you're getting the message out there. So best case we can do is give more space or more time, or be like a friendlier media outlet that'll sort of work with you rather than being like, okay, what are your bullet points? How am I going to tell a story that's going to help my my existing audience understand you guys. It's like our audience is you guys and these guys and these guys. But what we really want to do is start working with groups early days to get them that exposure and that comfort with speaking to the media. You don't want the first time you go on radio to be ABC.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, my first time was 3CR. It was, can I swear? Is it?
Absolutely, I'll bleep it, but yeah.
It was butt early in the morning, pre-coffee, and the hardest part about that is condensing. So I started off with XR doing outreach talks, which is a 2-hour talk. And so whenever I did interviews, I felt like I had 2 hours of content to get into like 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 3 sentences, which is really painful because there's just so much great stuff to teach people. And it is right, that's right, experience is key. And I feel so much more confident here talking to you today after most of the interviews that we do are uni students actually. So they're like doing projects and they hear about us and they want to cover us, which is encouraging. But yeah, since it started in universities and hopefully we'll get more uni students coming along, yeah, it's really good to reach out to the bigger places like yourself and 3CR and hopefully ABC. There's a radio in Geelong who's interested as well.
The Sustainable Hour, they're fantastic.
Yeah. Tony Gleason. So yeah, that's right. Hey
Tony.
Hey Tony. I'm sure he'll listen. He's one of my heroes. I'm working really closely with Tony. So yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah.
He's one of the care bears of the community. He is so generous at this time and his experiences, and he's had so many.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy you're working with him. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll probably have to shove off here shortly, but I understand you've got a big day tomorrow. I'll be back to talk to you tomorrow all about that.
Yes.
I'll probably end up cutting this because this will be, Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Violet was so generous with her time, and I just wanted to thank her again for sitting down with me the night after a camp out for climate, which meant she probably wouldn't have had a great night's sleep before that. So thank you so much for that, Violet. I hope you took something away from that. I know I sure did. Straight away, I was quite happy hearing there is a theory to Extinction Rebellion, that this decentralized, non-hierarchical group that's shutting down cities around the world does have a method they're working to. That not only is there rules of the road like their 10 principles, but there's a theory that Extinction Rebellion has come about from studying the movements of the past, looking to build on their successes and learn from their failures and get something done. Now, I'm quite new to the climate movement, and I'll keep saying that until it's not true, but it still is. And even though I haven't been in the movement very long or in the community, there's one thing that I keep noticing over and over again, is that groups of varied names, varied campaigns, groups across this community are all really well-intentioned people. They want to do the right thing. They want to do something. They're aware of the climate crisis and they're freaked out. But not all groups are acting as effectively as they can. So I was really encouraged to hear that Extinction Rebellion does have a plan, they do have a reason, they do have a theory of change. But of course I didn't get into the theory of change and the politics of Extinction Rebellion, or how we go about changing society, as deeply as I could have with Violet. But that is something I'm interested in doing in future, and if that's something you'd like to hear, please just let me know. Please forgive me for my questions there at the end about the role of the media in the climate community. It is something in the course of doing this show I am of course very interested in, and I want to know how we can grow, how we can best serve the community, and who out there is interested in being a part of this. But I am really happy with how that came out, and how I was able to describe what we do and who we're looking to work with. So if that sounds like you, please just get in touch. Send us an email at hello@climactic.fm and let's talk. Okay, I think that'll about wrap up this bonus episode for Climactic. Thank you for joining us again this week. We will have another episode coming out on Thursday, which will be the second keynote from Climart's Art Plus Climate Equals Change 2019 Festival. That'll be another good one and something to look forward to. I've been your host, Mark Spencer. Have a great day.
The Climactic Collective.